Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into AI weather forecasting.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically with Google Cloud's WeatherNext.
Right.
You know how AI is like changing everything?
Yeah.
Well, get ready for AI to change the weather, or at least how we predict it.
Yeah, really.
This new tech is seriously impressive.
It is.
We're so used to checking the forecast and...
hoping for the best.
Yeah, and just kind of like...
crossing our fingers.
Yeah, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But WeatherNext is about getting like a way clearer picture of what's coming and further out than we ever could before.
Absolutely.
We've got a recent Korean language article.
Okay.
And a cool image that we're using as sources today.
All right.
The article talks about predicting the weather with like way higher accuracy, even up to 15 days
Wow.
in advance,
Right.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that could change everything.
Yeah.
From how we plan vacations
Right.
to how entire industries prepare for storms.
It's a potential game changer for sure.
Totally game changer.
Especially with the increasing threat of all these extreme weather events we've been seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about like the billion-dollar hurricanes and stuff.
Oh, totally.
If businesses could get a more accurate heads up,
Yeah.
imagine the impact on things like supply chains.
Oh, my gosh.
And infrastructure protection.
Absolutely. So let's break down what we've learned.
Yeah.
What exactly is WeatherNext?
Yeah.
What makes it so different from your typical weather app?
WeatherNext is an AI weather prediction model.
Okay.
It's developed by Google Cloud in collaboration with Google DeepMind and Google Research.
So it's like the...
big brains.
Yeah, the big brains at Google.
Yeah.
What makes it so different?
Well, it's
The amount of data it processes
right.
and the AI brains behind it.
It's leveraging BigQuery to analyze these massive data sets
Right.
and then Earth Engine to tap into all this geospatial data.
Wow.
It's like a supercomputer or got a meteorology degree.
Okay, so serious computational power.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work?
Right.
Does it just look at past weather patterns and make an educated guess?
It's way more sophisticated than that.
Okay.
It's a two-pronged approach.
Okay.
Two distinct models.
All right.
WeatherNext Gen and WeatherNext Graph.
All right.
Think of it as like getting two expert opinions, each using a different method.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's the difference between these two models?
All right, so WeatherNext Gen is a probabilistic system.
Okay.
That means it gives you a range of possible weather outcomes,
Got it.
each with a probability attached.
Okay.
So it's kind of like saying there's a 70% chance of rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
This model excels at predicting like daily weather,
Okay.
extreme events up to 15 days in advance.
Wow.
And it's significantly more accurate than current models because it learns from tons of historical weather data, satellite imagery, and real-time sensor readings.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
15 days out with that level of detail.
Uh-huh.
Wow. So what about WeatherNext Graph?
Okay, so WeatherNext Graph,
Yeah.
it's a deterministic system. Okay. Instead of giving you a range of possibilities, it aims for a single specific prediction
Got it.
of mid-range weather conditions up to 10 days ahead.
Interesting.
And it accomplishes this by using a technique called numerical weather prediction.
Okay.
Basically, it creates like a virtual model of Earth's atmosphere
Cool.
and runs simulations to see how weather patterns might evolve.
So it's like running a super detailed virtual weather experiment.
All right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What about the practical applications?
Right.
How does this actually help people and businesses?
Well, imagine you're an energy company.
Okay.
With WeatherNext, you could get a much more accurate picture of future energy demands
Right.
based on predicted temperature fluctuation.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just energy, right?
Right.
We're talking about potentially transforming
Yeah.
everything from retail inventory management
Totally.
to disaster preparedness.
Oh my gosh. If you're in retail, knowing what the weather will be like 2 weeks out
Yeah.
could dramatically improve your inventory planning.
Oh, yeah.
You'll know what to stock up on based on predicted weather conditions.
That's huge.
And for disaster preparedness,
Yeah.
earlier and more accurate warnings of extreme events like hurricanes could save lives and reduce damage.
Speaking of saving lives,
Yeah.
I'm curious about how this level of weather prediction might impact our approach to natural disasters.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a future where we can, like, more effectively evacuate people
Oh, yeah.
and minimize the impact of these events?
Absolutely. More accurate, longer range forecasts
Yeah.
could revolutionize how we prepare for and respond to natural disasters.
Wow.
It's not about eliminating the threat entirely,
Right.
but about giving communities the information they need to take action and protect themselves.
This all sounds incredibly promising.
Yeah.
But I do wonder about potential downsides.
Yeah, of course.
Is there a risk of like becoming too reliant on these predictions?
Uh,
Or perhaps even using them for less than ethical purposes?
that's a really crucial question.
Yeah.
Any powerful technology comes with the responsibility to use it ethically and thoughtfully.
Right.
As WeatherNext evolves, it'll be important to have conversations
Totally.
about data privacy access and the potential for misuse.
Yeah, you've got a point there.
Yeah.
It seems like this technology
Uh-huh.
could raise some serious ethical questions
Oh, for sure.
as it becomes more widespread.
Definitely. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like most technological advancements, we have to weigh the potential benefits against the potential risks
Right.
and figure out how to use this power responsibly.
That's a great point to end on for this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from the nuts and bolts of how WeatherNext works to its potential impact on businesses and disaster preparedness.
Right.
But I'm also eager to dig into those ethical considerations you mentioned.
Absolutely. It's a topic that deserves its own deep dive.
All right, folks, that's a wrap for part 1. Join us for part 2, where we'll delve into those potential ethical dilemmas and explore how society might grapple with such accurate weather predictions.
How good.
See you soon.
See ya.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last time we got pretty deep into like the technical side of WeatherNext Google Cloud's AI weather prediction model.
Right.
But as with any powerful tool, there are some big questions about how it might impact society as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. It's not enough to just marvel at the technology we have to consider like the potential ripple effects, both good and maybe not so good.
Right, so let's play devil's advocate for a bit.
Yeah.
What are some of the potential downsides or ethical dilemmas that could come with having these super accurate weather predictions?
One that immediately comes to mind is like the potential for economic disparity.
Okay.
You know, if only certain businesses or individuals have access to this kind of advanced forecasting,
Right.
it could create an uneven playing field.
That's a really good point. I could see how large corporations could use WeatherNext to gain an even bigger advantage over smaller competitors. Like, imagine a big agricultural conglomerate
Yeah.
knowing exactly when to plant and harvest for maximum yield, while smaller farms are still relying on more traditional methods.
Exactly. And beyond just like the business side of things, think about disaster preparedness.
Yeah.
If wealthier communities can afford to take preventative measures based on these predictions, while lower income areas can't, the impact of a storm could be devastatingly uneven.
It's almost like knowing the future could in some ways make existing inequalities even worse.
It's a very real concern. And then there's also like the question of privacy.
Okay.
WeatherNext relies on massive amounts of data
Yeah.
to generate its predictions data about our environment, our movements, even our energy consumption.
So how do we make sure that all that data is being used responsibly and ethically?
Right.
Could this create new forms of surveillance or data exploitation?
Those are really crucial questions. We need to be having conversations about data ownership transparency and how to prevent this technology from being used for things that weren't intended or that could harm individuals or communities.
Yeah, it's interesting because on one hand, this technology could help us be more resilient in the face of a changing climate. But on the other hand, it could create new forms of vulnerability if it's not handled carefully.
Absolutely. It's a classic example of how technological advancements often come with these unintended consequences.
Speaking of unintended consequences, there's also the psychological impact to consider. I mean, how would knowing the future of the weather, even just a few weeks out, change how we view nature?
That's a fascinating question. Right now, there's a certain acceptance that we can't control the weather. It's this force of nature that we just have to adapt to.
Right.
But if we were able to predict it with such accuracy, would it lead to a sense of complacency or even a feeling of anxiety because we'd always be anticipating the next storm?
Yeah, like instead of wondering if a hurricane will hit, we'd be constantly worrying about when it's going to hit.
Yeah.
That could be a lot to deal with mentally and emotionally.
It could definitely change our perception of risk and uncertainty, and it also raises questions about how we might start to view ourselves in relation to nature. Would we see ourselves as more in control, or would it actually highlight just how powerful and unpredictable the natural world still is?
It's a bit mind-bending when you really think about it.
It is, and it's exactly the kind of conversation we need to be having now before this technology becomes even more widespread, because once the genie's out of the bottle, it's hard to put it back in.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for economic disparity, privacy concerns, and the psychological impact of knowing the weather's future. Are there any other ethical considerations that come to mind?
Well, there's the question of access. We touched on this before, but it's worth emphasizing. If WeatherNext is going to benefit society as a whole, we need to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford it.
That raises the question of who should be responsible for making that happen. Is it on companies like Google to make these tools affordable and accessible? Or does it require government intervention to ensure that everyone has access?
That's a tricky one. It's probably going to require a combination of private sector innovation and public policy to make sure this technology is used for the greater good.
Okay, so lots to unpack there, but let's shift gears for a moment and talk about how this technology might actually be used in the real world. We've talked about the potential applications in general terms, but are there any specific examples of how WeatherNext is already making a difference?
There are some really interesting case studies emerging, for instance, in the energy sector. Some companies are already using WeatherNext to optimize their operations.
Okay.
They're able to anticipate fluctuations in renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which lets them better balance supply and demand.
That's huge for the transition to cleaner energy. If we can accurately predict when the sun is going to shine, when the wind is going to blow, it makes renewable energy much more viable.
Exactly, and beyond energy, think about agriculture. Farmers have always been at the mercy of the weather, but with WeatherNext, they can get hyper-local forecasts that help them make smarter decisions about planting, irrigation, and harvesting.
So they can potentially minimize losses from things like drought or unexpected storms that could have a huge impact on food security, especially as the climate becomes more unpredictable.
Absolutely, and those are just two examples. We're also seeing WeatherNext being used in areas like transportation logistics, and even urban planning.
It seems like the possibilities are pretty much endless.
They really are. It's a technology with the potential to touch virtually every aspect of our lives.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to admit it's a bit overwhelming too. It feels like we're on the cusp of a major societal shift, and there are a lot of unknowns.
I agree. It's a lot to process, but I think it's important to remember that we're not just passive observers in this process.
Right?
We have a role to play in shaping how this technology is developed and used.
That's a great point. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about the choices we make as a society.
Exactly. We need to have these conversations, ask the tough questions, and work together to make sure that WeatherNext is used ethically and responsibly.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the potential downside to the inspiring applications, but I think we've only just scratched the surface of this topic.
We have, and there's still so much more to explore.
All right, folks, that's a wrap for part 2 of our deep dive into WeatherNext. Join us next time as we wrap things up with some final thoughts on the future of AI weather forecasting and what it all means for humanity. Until then, keep those brains buzzing. Welcome back to the deep dive. In the last 2 parts, we really dug into WeatherNext, from its technical capabilities to the ethical dilemmas it poses.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
It was, but now I'm curious what's next.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for AI weather forecasting?
Right.
Are we on the verge of a major paradigm shift in how we understand and interact with the weather?
It really feels that way. I mean, we've already seen how WeatherNext is changing things in energy and agriculture, but I think we're just getting started.
Yeah.
As the technology gets even better and the data sets get bigger, the accuracy and scope of these predictions will just keep increasing.
That's exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time.
It is.
What are some of the potential long-term impacts that you see both on a global scale and in our everyday lives?
Well, on a global scale, I think AI weather forecasting could really improve our ability to deal with climate change.
Okay.
Imagine being able to predict droughts, floods, and extreme weather events with crazy accuracy.
Yeah.
This could totally change how we prepare for disasters,
Yeah.
allowing communities to take action ahead of time to protect themselves and minimize damage.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing what the weather will be like. It's about using that knowledge to make decisions that could save lives and resources.
Exactly. And beyond disaster preparedness, think about how we could improve resource management. We could use these predictions to improve irrigation systems, manage water supplies better, and even plan urban development to reduce the impact of extreme weather.
It's like we're moving towards a future where we can work with the weather instead of constantly battling against it.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that shift in perspective is key. Instead of viewing the weather as this unpredictable, uncontrollable thing, we can start to see it as a system that we can understand and work with to create a more sustainable and resilient future.
But this level of prediction and control also brings up some philosophical questions, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, where do we draw the line between understanding and manipulating nature?
You're right. As we get better at predicting and even influencing the weather, we have to be super careful about the ethical implications.
Yeah.
We have to ask ourselves some tough questions about how far we're willing to go and what the unintended consequences might be.
It's like that classic sci-fi idea of humans trying to control the weather, only now it's becoming real.
It is.
We have to be careful not to let our technology get ahead of our wisdom.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that technology is just a tool.
Yeah.
It's up to us to use it wisely and responsibly.
That makes me think, what role will humans play in the future of weather forecasting?
Right.
Will we still need meteorologists when AI can do so much of the work?
I think human expertise will always be important, but the way we use that expertise might change.
Okay.
Instead of just crunching numbers and making predictions, meteorologists might focus more on interpreting the data, helping us understand what it all means and make smart decisions based on that.
So it's not about replacing human intelligence, but about combining it with AI.
Exactly. It's about using the best of both worlds to really understand the weather and how it affects us.
It's cool to think about how these roles might change as the technology keeps developing.
Yeah.
Speaking of advancements, where do you see AI weather forecasting going in the next 5 to 10 years? What breakthroughs can we expect?
I think one area where we'll see a lot of progress is in hyperlocal forecasting. Imagine getting a weather prediction that's specific to your street or even your backyard.
Wow.
This could change so many things, from planning outdoor events to managing traffic in cities.
That level of detail would be amazing. And beyond hyperlocal predictions, what else is on the horizon?
I think we'll see AI being used to model and predict more and more complex weather events like hurricanes, wildfires, and the effects of climate change on regional weather patterns.
Oh, wow.
This will take some seriously sophisticated algorithms and huge data sets, but the potential benefits are huge.
It's like we're moving towards a level of weather understanding that was unimaginable just a few years ago.
We're entering a new era of weather intelligence, and it's both exciting and kind of awe-inspiring.
You know, hearing you talk about all this makes me feel like we're on the edge of something big. It's like we're finally starting to figure out this force of nature that has shaped our planet for so long.
I agree. It's humbling to realize that even with all our fancy technology, we're still just scratching the surface of understanding how complex and powerful the natural world is.
Yeah.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered so much in this deep dive into WeatherNext and the future of AI weather forecasting. It's clear that this technology has the potential to change how we think about and interact with the weather, but also comes with the responsibility to use it wisely and ethically as we move forward. We need to keep having these conversations about the implications of these advancements and work together to create a future where technology benefits both humanity and the planet. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, listeners. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you.